Hello, Simon Gawesworth from RIO Products and Farbank here, talking to you today about a new salmon line we got out. It is the Elite Scandi Outbound in a hover density. Oh yeah, if you're a salmon angler, this is something you'll probably be waiting for a long time. Plenty of shops have been asking for this, plenty of gillies have been asking for this. I've been asking for this. It's my favorite density of a Scandi line is a hover density, and now it is available in this Elite Scandi Outbound. And the Scandi Outbound, well, that's the best-selling salmon line in the UK for years and years and years. It's a great casting line, it's an integrated line, it's got its running line built in. As you can see here, it's got a little orange section that denotes where the running line ends and the head starts. So when you're casting and you're stripping line in, you know where to get to the head. This olive end here, well, that's your hover density, so it sinks about 1 inch a second, 3/4 to 1 inch a second. And that density is an unbelievably good fishing density. It's great for stronger currents because it gets just under the water. Good for windy days, the wind doesn't blow your line around. It cuts through the wind. It actually casts better than the floater does because it's slightly slimmer because of the density, so it turns over and casts better. I think it's a much better line as a result. It is in our Elite series, which means it's built on our Connect Core Plus, so a very low stretch line. What I like about that is when you made a good chuck and you've got your line out there and you're at 80, 90, 100, 110 feet, whatever your distance is, and a salmon grabs the line, because it's low stretch, all you need to do is just lift into it, and you don't have this bungee effect on your fly line, so you just drive that hook home better. And when you're fighting the fish, when you turn the fish, it turns. So that Elite series on that low stretch core is very beneficial for that. Now on the front end of those, I would probably add some kind of Versa leader. And this is the new refined Versa leaders we have at RIO. There's a heavy side and there's a medium size. And really the medium size is ideal for your 7/8s and your 8/9s. But if you're fishing those slightly bigger rods and those heavier lines, you probably want the heavy size. Those are good on your 9/10s and 10/11s. This is the Elite Game Changer body. For salmon anglers, two-handed rods, carries in sizes from 7 weight up right through 11 weight, covers all the sizes. And it's a versatile, interchangeable, multi-density head that can be used for Skagit casting style, but even better for Scandi casting style. And what that means is our old Game Changer, if you're familiar with our old Game Changer, was a Skagit Max Game Changer, purely designed for the big flies and the big sink tips, throwing heavy stuff, but really pretty useless for more presentation, tapered tips like our 10-foot and 15-foot replacement tips. So that is where this is an upgrade. This new head will have a much more refined and sophisticated front taper. You can put in your Skagit tips if you want, but where it's way better than the old head is you can put on your 10-foot and your 15-foot replacement tips like this and create these beautiful, smooth, easy casting, presentation style lines that aren't so clunky. So it's a much smoother casting, much more versatile head because of the tips you can put on it, and that's because of the taper change. It's in our Elite series, which means it's on our low stretch core, our Connect Core Plus, which is brilliant because one of the best things about fishing with salmon is when you get that grab and you feel that grab is you want to set the hook. And a low stretch core will do that far faster than a big bungee effect where you lift into it and nothing happens and you've lost the chance of getting a fish. So that's one thing. It's got that low stretch core, that's fine. But another thing that's different from this one over the old one is it has new options that have sinking back ends. Now, if you knew our old Skagit Game Changer, it all had a floating back end, and that was good for mending and picking up and seeing the swing. But these new ones have also, in addition to the floating back end, have ones that have either an intermediate back end like this one. This is an intermediate sink 2, sink 3, so it gets down and it stays down. It's got a nice orange back section as well, so you can track it in the water and when you're stripping in, so you know where to stop stripping and start casting. So that's a new style. And then perhaps the best one of all, sink 3, sink 5, sink 7. So a real dredger, no floating back end, which is great again because that means it gets down, the floating section doesn't hold it up. So this will give you a deeper penetration and a deeper swing. That's good. We also put this orange section on again at the back end for the same reason as when you strip it in, you want to know where that head's coming so you know where to stop stripping, make that roll cast and make the cast. Today I want to talk to you about our Elite Skagit Pickpocket shooting head. It's a shooting head designed for the salmon angler. So if you're a salmon angler, this might be of great interest to you. It's a multi-density head. That means it has more than just a single density. There's 3 densities in these heads. Why are 3 densities good? Is simply you get a very even sink rate. You don't get a floating with a sink tip and a hinge point. You get a much smoother transition of depths. So multiple density heads are way more effective than fishing a single floating line with a sink tip on the end. That's the concept behind these. The first thing about the pickpocket is there are 2 different sizes. There are 2 different densities. There's one like this one, which is the float intermediate sink 3. So it's got a sink 3 front end and a floating back end. And then there's a dredger version, which is the sink 3 back end, a sink 5 middle end, and a sink 7 front end to really get down when you're fishing the coldest water or in the strongest flows and you really need to get your flies down there. So there's a couple of different options in terms of sink rates. One of the key things of the Skagit pickpocket is the length. Really short, like this is only 20 foot long. And why is that important? Well, there's 3 reasons you might want a short Skagit head. The first reason, casting reason, is the power. So a simple way of looking at power of a fly line is divide the length and the grain weight to see what you get per grains per foot. A 400 grain line that's 40 feet long averages 10 grains a foot. A 400 grain line that's only 10 foot long averages 40 grains a foot. Much more power. So the shorter the head for a given length, the more power there is. So these are the most powerful Skagit heads, multi-density Skagit heads we've built. That's perfect for throwing heavy sink tips or coping with a really heavy fly or dealing with wind like we have today. So in those conditions, the short heads are far more beneficial than the longer heads. The second reason is shorter rods. Switch rods are very popular. If you like to fish a shorter rod, a short salmon rod, a short spey rod, or a switch rod, these shorter heads are much better options for those shorter rod lengths, so you don't get the connection inside and have too much line outside the rod and just find it casting hard. So the second advantage is on those shorter rods. And perhaps the third and maybe the most important one is when you're super tight to obstructions behind you, you've got a wall of trees and maybe you've only got a foot of room behind you and you can't form any form of D-loop to make a forward cast. Well, a short head gives you, it's kind of like a Toby hanging off a spinning rod. Literally, you can hang it behind you and chuck it out there. So when you're in those really tight situations, that's where your Elite Skagit pickpocket is going to be more beneficial. So that is the Elite Skagit pickpocket, and you can get it in the shop here at Sportfish or from sportfish.co.uk.